okay? So you believe what you want to believe in. What I believe is that you should not push your views on anybody else. And that's really the way that it should be. And I don't care what views they are, religious, political, art, what's your favorite beer, you know, whether you're heterosexual, homosexual, transgender, you be what you want to be in this fucking world.
Jef, tell me something you pretend to understand but secretly don't.
Life. Everybody has a different experience every single day you wake up, every second, every minute, every hour. My life really begins when I get up in the morning and I start working in this studio. It breathes brand new life into my existence every day. I think for me personally as a firefighter, as a human being, as me, Jef Campion, I realized I wasn't immortal anymore. I think that firefighters, myself, I'll speak for myself, but I'll speak for a lot of firefighters I know, have this insane sense of immortality. And what we do is something that 99% of people in the world will never get to see and do in our daily lives of firefighting, especially structure fires and life-saving events. The adrenaline rush, the way that you prepare yourself. I never thought ever of, I've been on the job 27 years, I never thought I would be killed in a fire. I never thought that that was the way I was going to die. So that immortality factor, after 9/11, and after I watched in the last couple of years my friends be killed in fires, trying to rescue people, I realized I wasn't immortal. I was there on the 12th. I went there on the 12th with a urban search and rescue team from Yonkers and Albany, New York. And I stayed there for initially almost over a month. I would say 40 plus days there, day and night, sleeping under a trailer. Those were our accommodations for a while, until things started coming there, like cots, and the public and the government started responding with a lot of stuff that we needed. But the first week there was absolutely surreal, and you'll hear that word a lot. It was surreal, but out of an artist's mind and eyes, it really was bizarre. That everything that I took in, and I was visually overloaded, visually stimulated by everything, every turn that I took, every place that I went, every search and recovery and rescue that we were on. I was overwhelmed. And I'm sure everybody was, but I was overwhelmed in a different way.
Do you think it's what woke the artist again?
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. Prior to 9/11, I didn't do art. I kind of did funny things for the firehouse, made t-shirts. After 9/11, it was kind of, I parallel it. From the ashes of 9/11, a phoenix was reborn as an artist, Jef Campion. And there was no stopping what happened to me after 9/11, the self-destruction and depreciation I went through, into the journey of saving my life and my sanity through art.
So what happens now? I would suppose we simply wait, and I wonder how evolution will seal our fate. I heard that the plans have all been made, through the wires will attempt escape. In a sea of green we'll evade them.
The writings that I did, I only wrote one story about 9/11, about the bravery and the courage and my time being there, and then everything else that came out was what happened in my life, between the family that I supposedly had and ex-girlfriends and women. I really had a serious internal problem with my mother, but I just kept it quiet, and I treated a lot of women, I think, with the way that I wanted to treat my mother to be treated. My mother was abused her whole life. And I'm not saying by her parents. My mother came from an incredible upbringing, but met two insane men in her life that abused her. My real father I never knew. My stepfather was a insane man. And growing up was tough for my brother and I. And so watching and seeing that abuse, it becomes inherent. And again, if you're not nurtured and you're not brought through it, like these days you can go to therapists and you can get medicines and you go to counseling. In the days I was growing up, that never existed. You just dealt with it. And if you didn't deal with it, well, if you didn't deal with it, you left home and you became, almost what I became and my brother did become. I think being on drugs and alcohol, you're like a cognitive acrobat, and you need to have the people that you're lying to believe you. And I was really good at that. And I'm not using these statements to tout my craft, because it was an insane way to live.
Do you think becoming a firefighter was the light out of that? That was the light? At least like
I would say yes. It was the foundation.
Yeah.
Because, again, I'm not going to say that I was a child that I ran around with a toy fire truck under my arm, and I wanted to be a firefighter my whole life. It didn't even come into play. I always wanted to be something that was creative. I was born an artist, but it was never nurtured. Had nothing to do with hope. Had to do with reality. Had to do with living the way that I was brought up, and the way that I was brought up on the street, and the way that I was brought up, the way that I self-educated myself. I read. I wasn't great in school. I was a horrific student. And again, because my art and my nurturing and my intelligence level wasn't nurtured, I was in a place, born into a family in a place that was prehistoric, and I was already way above that at a young age. And I knew it and I recognized it, but at a young age, you can do nothing about it. There was always a guide in my life, and it's not religious, it's more spiritual than religious. I have no religious convictions because you can't. You can't have religious convictions in the insanity of the world today when children are tortured every day through disease, poverty, and homelessness. And basically, no, the world doesn't give a flying fuck. The world just goes on. But I've been volunteering with children with cancer for 17 years. Some of them become very close to my heart. And I watch what the families go through. And okay, there's disease and famine and poverty and homelessness and war in the world. But if there's a God, why would a God give an infant neuroblastoma, have surgeons rip his head off, cut half of his brain out or her brain out, sew his face and head back on, and then put him through the most barbaric cancer treatments in the world? And as an infant to, a young age, 18 years old, and you just say to yourself, my God, who would do that to a child? Oh yeah, I'm having some issues with, which I've had for probably, I think 3 or 4 years after 9/11, I started noticing some of my health issues. Well, the coughing is one thing. It's nonstop. I'm not coughing now, but I did it. Most mornings I wake up and I have an insane coughing fit to the point where it's from acid reflux and GERD and whatever moniker you want to give it, I have it. And I just deal with it. It's not the firefighters and the police who are sick and dying. It's the people, because our medical bills, and we are sick and we are dying, but our medical bills for the most part are taken care of through our jobs. It's the iron workers, it's the construction workers, it's the people who went down there who are not being taken care of by their own country, by America. So you say to yourself, these people went down there, they're legitimately sick, but Congress and the senators and these insane doctors will say, we have no way to relate your illness to 9/11. That's fucking insane.
It's the dawn of a gilded age. Always forward, never back. This oppression cannot last.
I don't care what soapbox you stand on and say our servicemen and women are the bravest in the world. Look what they do, look what they do. Yeah, what happens historically when they come back from war? Do you have a job waiting for them? Can they get employment? What about the ones that are maimed and come back as quadriplegics, paraplegics, and have severe, horrific injuries? You know what you should do for those soldiers? You should build them a home built to their specific injury, so when they come home, they are comfortable. Army of One started after 9/11, when I wanted to make a difference. And I wasn't really making a difference just in the firehouse and around the kitchen having coffee, because nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody wants to hear anything anyway, because it's either always a conspiracy theory or you're just rambling on, and go do something about it. So I do. I started the Army of One. Not only do I do that, I raise money for Ronald McDonald House for Kids with Cancer. I've been volunteering there for 17 years. I raise money for Wounded Warriors Project. Almost up to 50%, sometimes all of my proceeds from artwork that I sell with the Diane Arbus image go to charities in the Army of One's name and Diane Arbus's name. So I really want the Arbus family to understand, Army of One has appropriated a timely and frightening image and changed it into a metaphor for the safety and sanctity of children and soldiers around the world globally. And this is a fight that we will not back down from. Because there are soldiers returning here who are being forgot about, who are unemployed, who can't get ahead, who can't take care of their families. The suicide rate among soldiers is the highest it's ever been. The homelessness rate among soldiers is the highest it's ever been in this country. There are children dying of cancers that there should be a cure for. And we understand, real people understand, that there can't be a cure, because then what happens to the pharmaceuticals, the doctors, the hospitals, and the lobbyists? No one gets paid. You cure cancer, no one gets paid. So you let a world suffer through horrific diseases for monetary gain. And that's exactly what I believe.
If I did it then, I can't show